It's never a challenge if you're prepared. Never. If they have a way to get to your office, and you have a large room, and you have a staff that can help you get these kids in the chair or reclining, today technology with LED lights, good back, I can bend down, I can do everything we can, and we treat kids, adults, geriatrics, of all ages. Thank you. All ages in my office. Many dentists in town like that. I think Central Florida carries a great number of dentists that they carry facilities to accommodate the special needs. And we take a lot of pride because opens our hearts. Been very significant all these years, not just with patients, but friends from church and many other different groups. And I have sponsored and helped with everything they knock on the door because I truly believe in it.
Thank you.
It's an honor to be asked to moderate for Dr. Rosado, which I'm going to introduce very soon. I'm originally from Puerto Rico. The last 2 weeks I've moved 6 of my family members all above the age of 74. The island's in turmoil, needs help. We're working in many different projects from out here to heal the incompetent, that feeling that you're not there to help directly. Impotence will be the incompetence. Sometimes I feel when it doesn't work out what we're trying to do. But that impotence, it's what I'm using to fuel the need to help Puerto Rico. And I will thank you for all your prayers. I think the world knows what's going on. And I believe that help is there, help is getting every day from all angles. And for that, I appreciate that very much. Going back to Noah. Noah got great teeth. I cannot reach hip-hop. Can you sign that online real quick? No. Noah has great teeth. It starts with prevention. And I think I'm going to take just 1 minute out of prevention. Today, dentistry carries electric toothbrushes. It carries a lot of facilitates a lot of the care these kids, adults, all ages. But prevention starts early. Many people have fought fluoride for a long time. Fluoride is good for your teeth, it's been proven. Just like essential oils have been added to toothpaste these days to create insider reduction. I'm pretty sure many brands of toothpaste and dental materials are going to be coming in with a lot of the research we're witnessing as of today. They'll be including coming up, and I'm sure that will be a great way to associate natural science, holistic approach with prevention in dental cavities. But yeah, mechanical helps are there with the breakthroughs of affordable toothbrushes. You can get a really good affordable toothbrush for 20 bucks with 3 heads, single-handed, and easy for an operator to help and assist your child. So prevention is really the key, along with going to your dentist. And if you don't have a dentist, I love always taking patients. Referrals are referral only. So if you need my information, just talk to Tricia and she'll hook you up. And like I said, there's a lot of dentists in Orlando that care for this special population that we have in our hearts. My nephew, my first nephew, he is 14 now. He is autistic. My sister, she's an MD. She lives in West Palm Beach. And I asked Dr. Rosado earlier if she knew my sister, if he knew my sister, because my sister went to the same medical school in Santo Domingo. He attended. My sister is just a little older than him. So anyhow, they don't know each other, but I know the quality of medical care is in Santo Domingo. I think a quick comparison from my sister experience is that in Santo Domingo Medical School, what you read on a book here of a specific case, over there you will be able to meet the case, shake the hands with the case. All of a sudden that case become your patient. So there's a lot of hands-on experience in the Santo Domingo school, because the whole country takes the 3-4 schools and bring those patients over, rather than being the large-scale United States medical school where you get one case, one rare case, and then it gets photographed, put on a book. 6 months later, you got the publishing through all the universities. So I take a lot of respect for people that come from the same medical school that Dr. Rosado attended. Great, great respect. So going back to my nephew. My nephew, his name is Alejandro, and Alejandro, he's autistic. And I take my hat for my brother-in-law and my sister for being a great experience to this kid. And with that in my heart, I have learned that people that are very special, they have to be recognized as parents and the loved ones and the caretakers for these kids. And when I get to read the bio for Dr. Rosado, and I look from a physician standpoint, his history, his commitment, his breakthrough, being the first is something that a couple of years ago was like, wow, cannabis, weed, medical, question mark, question mark, question mark. You got somebody that's seen the vision, has studied it, has become a professional, and like the judge said, as of right now, his hands are tied. And he needs legislation and awareness, medical proof from all kinds, to let Dr. Rosado spread his wings and fly for all of us. So with that, I would like to welcome Dr. Rosado. Dr. Rosado, come on. I'm going to be moderating. I got questions. I took some pictures of the questions you guys put on the can back there. I got some good ones too. If anybody please wants to interrupt, wants to give your experience, this is a very good open forum, and I'm just moderating. At the end of the day, if you don't like it, you can please toss the tomatoes at him, not at me. So please, Dr. Rosado, waiting for a mic. Is that okay? We stand, Doc? We keep it standing, or here? What about we switch?
Yeah.
That way you can move around. I'll just stand over here with us. Okay. All right.
I don't think that was on.
This one's not on.
He's working on it.
Testing, testing, testing.
He's trying.
Testing. Testing.
Too close?
Testing.
Do you have a mic? Where's the other cordless mic? They're looking for it.
Hello? There we go.
Okay.
There we go.
Perfect. Okay. Well, thank you for that introduction. I'm Dr. Rosado. I'm a practicing physician here in the Orlando area. I've been working with cannabis now for about a year when we finally had product in August of 2016, but I've been involved in the movement since 2014. So, let's go.
Well, first and foremost, what I noticed in your biography early in your life, you started with the care of geriatric patients. And then, a few years later, you went into pediatrics. And as of today, he's right in the middle. Tell me what motivated you as a health, as a physician, taking care of the elderly first. What was that compassion or seed? How did that start?
It started primarily because of training. You know, as a primary care doctor, internal medicine, we focus primarily on adult care. And I did my training in Puerto Rico, and so the hospital that I worked in, they called it a glorified nursing home because of the majority of the patients were of advanced age, you know, 60, 70, 80, 90-year-olds. And so that's where we began. We had maybe 10 beds that were pediatric in the hospital, and we had a very small pediatric area and a pediatric ER. But beyond that, there wasn't much pediatrics. And so I was not a big fan of pediatric care, to be truthful. Not so much because of the kids, because of the parents. Because at 2, 3 o'clock in the morning, parents would call and say, my son just coughed and my daughter just coughed. I'm like, yeah, when did you give him the medication? 30 minutes ago. Why don't you let the medication work? So for that reason, I wasn't a big fan of pediatrics. But the transition occurred as a result of my second patient that I recommended cannabis to. A 15-year-old boy in Deltona whose stepmother was my medical assistant. And for a year, she'd been telling me about her stepson having this rare cancer that was very aggressive. And it got to the point that the child, 15 years old, had what's called rhabdomyosarcoma of the head and neck. And the tumor had been so aggressive that it had eaten his jaw, his cheekbone, his eye. He lost his eye, he was blind out of that eye, and was into the brain. He'd gone to St. Jude's on multiple occasions, had been on multiple clinical trials, and eventually St. Jude sent him home and said, we can't do anything else. And they put him in hospice. And that's when I started working with him. At that time, under Senate Bill 1030 and then Right to Try Act, patients had to wait. Does anybody know how many days patients had to wait before they could see a physician in the state of Florida or get a recommendation? 90 days, 3 months. This child had to wait before I could give him medication. The child didn't have to wait day one to get 16 milligrams of morphine infused into his belly every hour because he was on a morphine pump. And he also had the PA where he could, on demand get a bolus of morphine if he needed it. So as a result of that, that transitioned me into the pediatric world. And right now, my youngest patient, I heard a question earlier, what the age range was for treatment. My youngest patient right now is 20 months old. Oh, wow. She has a brain tumor.
Well, I will tell you one thing. Knowing Tricia through the years, and Tricia, I'm going to put you up to speed with knowing you. Put you on the spot. Tricia has been very open book through Facebook. That's pretty much the only social media that I do personally. And I admire because it brings information, awareness. It connects us, social media. It can do harm in some ways. In other words, it's a blessing. Through the years, Tricia has fought against corners, hitting the wall because that medical program, the doctor, lack of time, they didn't look into this, they couldn't look into that. It involves a comprehensive approach of every patient to get results. And when Tricia described Dr. Rosado, he's the very first one out of how many physicians have known been touched by
30, 40, 50,
30,
60
40, 50.
hospitals.
And I know that a lot of you feel that way. And there's good doctors out there. And for you to be the first one, 30, 40.
To make me cry.
Seeing Tricia crying right now, he tells me, one is not enough. They're there, they're coming. What will you tell to anybody on the stage? What's the difference between a comprehensive approach of care to special care, to the lack of medical doctors with your same heart, soul, and brain?
Thank you. That's a lot.
No pressure.
Well deserved.
A lot of my credit I owe to one person in this room. Now you got me doing it.
This is a circle.
Dusty.
When I first got in 2014, John Morgan in our state was promoting Amendment 2. And I always believed in the benefits of cannabis. So as a result, I started reading, learning, and researching and studying. And I went to social media and was looking for groups or pages that showed, physicians advocating or promoting the use of cannabis. I couldn't find one. And as I'm searching, I found a site that called to me. The name of that site was CBD for Children, CBD for Parents, or CBD for Parents of Epileptic Children. Yeah, I think that's the name. Anyway, I started researching and I started seeing the advocacy and how the administrator of that group was directing the conversation and the support and the advocacy and training parents on how to wean their children off of certain medications. Not being a physician, but just as a mom of a special needs child that took the bull by the horns and created something that eventually supports thousands and eventually millions of children. And that person is Janelle. you're my mentor. And because of her, I learned a lot. I learned how to dose. I learned what strains were working. I learned what needed to be done and how to advocate. And as a result of her and her efforts, now I'm able, and I'm managing close to 400 patients in my practice using cannabis. And all of it, to a large extent, has to do with my desire to learn, but the other is to understand that I don't have all the answers. I am an MD, I was a DC, because I was a chiropractor. I have 2 bachelor's degrees, I have 3 associate's degrees. And I'm not saying that to pump myself up, it's to demonstrate that we can learn from everybody. And I learned from her, and so thank you.
You covered a few questions I was going to ask. Number 1, what is the most significant experience you have? Seeing is believing, we all know that, right? We covered that one pretty well, I think.
Well, my first patient, she's a 35-year-old female with an astrocytoma, a brain tumor, stage 3 brain tumor. And the neurosurgeons had told her, there's not much we can do for you, so we're just going to observe. And she's like, I'm not gonna sit here. She's 35 years old, beautiful girl, amazing yoga instructor, yoga practitioner, vegetarian. So she's doing all the things correctly. And she found me, she called 5 offices, and on the 5th office was mine. And when she called and said, look, I'm interested in being seen, I want, you know, I'm interested in the cannabis. And I said, oh yeah, absolutely. My staff was already educated and they knew. And when she came in, she said, you were the 5th office that we called to get my cannabis. Again, we had to wait the 90 days, but we still had no product. She started coming to my office in the spring of 2016. And in August of 2016, she was the first patient in the greater Central Florida area to have received low THC, high CBD, which was the only thing that was available at that time for her. And then 3 months later, when we had, you know, product, the THC CBD, then I transitioned her over to that. But right now, she sailed from St. Augustine. She lives in Daytona Beach, New Smyrna Beach, I'm sorry. She lives in New Smyrna Beach. Her and her dad bought a sailboat and sailed from St. Augustine all the way to Maine. And she's got a brain tumor. There's shrinkage in the brain tumor. There's great function in her functionality. She has no weakness on either side. She's no longer on the seizure medications, Keppra. We've taken her off of the Keppra, and she's doing extremely well. So,
very good, very good. Having my dad in town since the hurricane have brought me many conversations. I visit my family probably 2-3 times a year. But in the last 2 weeks since I brought him home, many conversations. So it's like I'm learning from my dad at 45. He's 74. Sorry, Dad, if you're watching on Facebook. But anyhow, we're talking about legalization of marijuana. And he said, my dad's a lawyer, and he asked me never to test anything that is illegal in high school. I was in sports, in the 90s in Puerto Rico, weed, as many other illegal drugs were easy to find. But I did make a promise, and I never smoked weed, I never tried weed, never.
It's cannabis.
Yes, we like cannabis.
I'm in Puerto Rico, I'm in my 90s.
Right.
But he kept telling me, remind me, the reason he said that he was so strictly about not doing that is because when the dealers don't have the weed, they'll go to the second drug they'll have on stock and sell it. It putting the youth at risk of a problem in the deal. It will put the kids at getting hooked into cocaine, meth, many other things that are bad, proven bad. And science has done a switch to welcome cannabis. And we're working hard to get this legalized. I believe that, in my personal opinion, and I'm going to follow with a question to you. My personal opinion is if it gets controlled, like many other substances that we use recreational, it will take the risk of our youth, or any given age, to make a deal behind a 7-Eleven, you know, not know enough about the drug, not know about the substance. I understand that they take marijuana and get sprayed with cocaine or heroin and give it to get these kids, our youth, hooked. For me, producing a push to legalize marijuana, cannabis, it is important to help our youth go in the right direction. Just like alcohol, and you know, and I want to know what your point is on this. What's your experience about growing up? I know we come from, did I mention we're both from Puerto Rico?
Well, I'm from the other island.
The Bronx, Sorry.
I have a feeling these two are going to be
I'm
friends.
from the island, and I'm a first generation mainland Puerto Rican, lovingly called a New Yorican.
Okay.
I was born and raised in New York. My parents are from Puerto Rico. And as my wife says, you remember your roots, and so those are my roots. As far as the challenge, I'm going to share a little secret with you guys, and I don't know if you've heard this before, but some of my patients that come in for the medical cannabis card in the state of Florida are already smoking marijuana.
Really?
Tell anybody? And the reason they're coming to the office and getting quote-unquote legal is for that reason. God forbid anything happens to them that they are using something on the black market that they're getting from the black market and they get caught, they're thinking of their family, not being able to provide for their children, not being able to take care of their children. And so for that reason, not only that, but what you're buying on the street, you have no idea where it's coming from. There's no independent testing.
Strains.
There's no independent testing right now, but that's a completely different topic, right? Anyway, but there's no, it's not medical grade, you have no idea. Together with the cannabis, I also do Suboxone therapy. I treat opiate dependence and addiction. I've been doing it since 2011. And patients come in and initially I do a urine drug screen just to see what's in their system as a baseline. And I'll see, you know, THC, and I'll see, you know, cocaine, and I'll see, you know, opiates, and then I'll see, you know, PCP. And I'll go in the room and I'm like, okay, I see, you know, you do some cannabis, I see you do some cocaine, yeah, doc, and I see that you know, you've got some benzos on board, you've got this, and you got that, and I see you've got PCP, you know, which is angel dust. And they're like, I don't do that. It's like, well, it's in your system. It's like, well, something is getting dusted.
Yep.
Correct.
And so as a result of that, let's get you off of all of that stuff. Let's get you some product that's clean and pure, as pure
What
and
does
clean
that
as
mean?
possible. And then
What does that mean? What do you mean dusted?
it's laced.
Oh, okay, got it.
Yeah,
I'm
it's
way
laced-
behind on legal terms.
Yeah, it's laced with, you know,
Okay.
something else. And
Oh,
so they're
oh,
thinking
thank
that
you.
they're using something, and
From the street. Okay, got it. Got it. Okay.
so for that reason, it is important for it to be decriminalized nationally
Yes.
and internationally. I follow a lot of what's going on in South America, Central America. This morning I spoke with a huge, amazing advocate about what's going on in Mexico. Just yesterday, they decriminalized it in cannabis in Peru. So,
I read that this morning.
so every country is moving in that direction. So this is a movement that's moving on, and it's not just the state of Florida. It's the
Big pharma.
That's great.
Curious to know how you're viewed in the medical with the other by your peers.
Oh, this is Paris. This is.
well,
How is this going with the other doctors that are very much against this, might be on the edge? I mean,
presently there are 55,000 physicians in the state of Florida. There are 1,000 physicians close to maybe a little over 1,000 physicians that have taken the course. Of that 1,000 physicians, maybe 10% are recommending, and of that 10%, another 10% are really doing the work.
Okay, so what is your viewpoint on why they're not going after this, or that it's so slow or whatever, when we're seeing what you even talked about? I mean, smaller growth in the cancer cells and everything. Is it the pharmaceutical? Is it the insurance companies? Is it because it's not?
It's a multifactorial problem or a challenge. Number one, the fear. We did an 8-hour course. I did an 8-hour course back in 2015. It is now a 2-hour course to be certified to recommend cannabis in the state of Florida. However, the bulk of that course was the legality of it and the problems and challenges if we recommend it, to the point that we could possibly lose our DEA license. If we lose our DEA license, you've just eliminated my ability to practice medicine.
Right.
Not because I am a narcotics writer or a prescriber, but if I have a child that has ADD or ADHD, I cannot prescribe their Adderall or Vyvanse. I have someone that is claustrophobic and needs to have an MRI, and they can go into the MRI tube. I cannot prescribe a Valium for them to take prior to their study. So if you're threatening my ability to practice medicine and support my family, then I'm going to shy away from that. And for that reason, a lot of doctors have not done so. For the fear that's been inculcated in our minds and in our thoughts that if you do this, you're going to lose your license and you're not going to be able to practice medicine.
Who's putting that fear out there? Politicians or pharmaceutical?
The boards that regulate us.
Okay.
The AMA, those things.
To an extent, yes. Yeah, because they've all made public statements. The Florida Medical Association has made a public statement that they do not support or believe the use of cannabis. However, the 8-hour course that I took and I paid $1,000 for, and the 2-hour course that I took to be the medical director of a growth was sponsored by whom? The Florida Medical Association.
Oh, okay.
So they don't support the use of medical cannabis. However, they were very pleased to take my $1,300 so that I could recommend cannabis and be a medical director for one of the license holders. You said it, not me.
So basically, you just keep jumping through this, whatever hoop they throw in front of you, so you can keep.
He's a warrior.
From Senate Bill 1030, which was the original law, that was the original bill that was signed into law in June of 2014. Okay, that was the first one, which was the right to the Compassionate Care Act, which only allowed for 4 diagnoses: epilepsy, chronic conditions that cause seizures, chronic conditions that cause muscle spasms, and cancer. It was low THC, high CBD. Okay, it was a political ploy because by doing so in June of 2014, when November of 2014 came around and Amendment 2 was being promoted, the opposition to Amendment 2 was saying, there's already a medical cannabis law in the books. It's called the Compassionate Care Act. It's Charlotte's Web. So why do we need to vote for Amendment 2? So the public was confused and disoriented as to what was going on. And so they didn't get the 60% needed to pass Amendment 2. Fast forward to 2016, in June, again, they signed the Right to Try Act, which was the act that allowed for the use of CBD and THC for terminally ill. Terminally ill was defined by the state as an individual that if we did nothing for them would be dead within a year. That's how the state defined it. And to make matters worse, they had to wait the 90 days before we could make a recommendation. Do you know how many patients died that came in and could not make the 90 days? 15 of my patients passed away waiting for those 90 days. And there were a host of others that called my office to set up an appointment, and when they were told that they had to wait 90 days before I could make a recommendation, they said, we don't think they're going to be alive, or I don't think I'm going to be alive.
Oh my God.
Thank you, but no thank you. And they would hang up. From there, it changed to Amendment 2 that it passed, supposedly, in November. But then January 3rd came around, we still couldn't recommend because the State Department of Health had 6 months to implement the law and 9 months to promulgate the law. It's still not been implemented because every other month, something new comes out. We had to wait for the informed consent to be created by the Board of Medicine and the Board of Osteopathic Medicine. Then the form for those patients that did not meet the 10 diagnoses issued by the state, there's a form that has to be filled out, which is a violation of the HIPAA rules because they're asking for us to submit patient information, patient data to the commission for them to review and make the determination whether this patient qualifies for cannabis or does not.
Which should be your decision.
Exactly. So if I get a patient, for example, that has rheumatoid arthritis, and rheumatoid arthritis is not one of the 10 diagnoses approved by Amendment 2 or Senate Bill 8A, I have to fill out a form with the patient's information, submit it to this committee within 14 days of seeing them, and then wait for them to respond back. And it's not faxed or emailed, it's sent through regular mail.
Who was on the committee?
I don't know, ma'am.
Well, I mean, it's all doctors, correct?
That's the rumor.
Can I follow up with that? I'm not from Florida, I'm from Idaho. You guys are so much further ahead of where we even are.
But this is, yeah.
Yeah, I think we have maybe 3 kids in the state who've been approved for Charlotte's Web. We're that far back. But to follow up with that, can people find out who's on that committee? Is it secret?
No, it's public knowledge.
I was going to say, I mean, if it's public knowledge.
Yeah, it's public knowledge. Anything
can people
that's done.
petition them?
Yeah, yes, you can.
That was where I was going with that. Can people write letters to them, like, hey,
Yeah, they don't really
people are
listen too
dying.
much.
People's private healthcare information is having to be submitted. This is ridiculous.
I mean, when we had to do the 90-day waiting period, patients would call the state and ask them, look, we're terminally ill. Is there any way you can waive the 90-day waiting period because we are afraid that they're not going to be alive? And the Department of Health was like, nope, that's what the rules are, and that's what the rules are.
What is the point of this 90-day period? You're
Let's
gonna
go.
get it anyway in 3 months, so what is the,
It's like gun control.
what is the point of this?
There is no point. There is no medical reason to do it. It was a legislator that put on a white coat and decided to play doctor. If you put on a white coat and decide to play doctor, you're going to jail for
Yeah.
practicing medicine without a license. But yet,
Wow.
politicians were making decisions for us, and that's what's going on, and that's what went on. Now, the 90-day rule was waived. Great. Patients no longer have to wait 90 days for me to give them a recommendation for cannabis. However, without a medical cannabis card, you cannot buy product.